Okay, now you can start this.
So, hello, am I clearly audible?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, now I'm going to share the screen. Is it visible? Full screen? Thank you. So, it is the first day of my presentation and it is the third season. So, the topic I have chosen is that self versus society in the impoverished gift. That is the poem by Rabindranath Tagore, which was originally written in Bengali language and later on it was translated. So, let us begin. So here is the introductory part of this slide, and here I have described some major key points of this poem, about this poem, and I have mentioned the source, this in-text citation here. So the poem is also like, so we all are aware of the broad structure of the poem. So let us move ahead to the point we have taken to discuss self versus society. So in the lines that I'm going to read, and I will be attaching some quotations and some explanation along with that. So to stand this point. So said the royal attendant, despite entreaties, king, the finest hermit, best among men, refuses shelter in your temple of gold. He is sinking to God beneath a tree by the road. So in the beginning lines, we find the narrator alludes to the sovereignty of the sages who, due to his own finest will, refuses to be the part or a puppet of king's vanity, despite given the highest. See how this point is interesting to be seen that this can be stretched further into the field of transcendentalism. The prominent transcendentalist Ralph Waldo Emerson, I have taken his quotation in his self-reliance. So he wrote an essay called Self-Reliance, in which he states that to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to change you is the greatest accomplishment. So it means to hold your identity as you are and to improve by yourself. So, however, this statement should not be taken to define and vindicate one's rigidity of character, but cherished as a uniqueness of oneself. So, here the sage we find is that he is cherishing his individual this devotion towards the god, and he does not go in the temple or in the grand temple built by the emperor there. And another line which we find, so there is no god in the temple, said the hermit. So this particular statement is quite kind of this hurting in these days if we take into the reference of that there is no god in the temple. So it is hard to say that there is no god in the temple. Then people will question that where is he? So furious, the king said. So on listening to this as like the modern day person everywhere in the world, not here in India, that they will get furious that they do not listen to anything that is condemning their belief system, their God or their belief God. So furious, the king said, "No God, you speak like a godless man. Hermit, a bejeweled idol on a bejeweled throne, you say it's empty." So the idea generally we get from these lines is the people's idea about God is that there should be a shrine or there should be a kind of monument upon which the God is sitting. So here, but the hermit is refuting the fact because he is seeking the spirituality when this emperor and all the social people are just going with this formative structure of God. So now I have taken some quotations by Swami Vivekananda, particularly because today nowadays we find that Swami Vivekananda are rather Swami Vivekananda is generally referred to as the prominent Hindu monk. So where he didn't feel himself as a Hindu or any other religion, but he had the ample knowledge of Western philosophy or any other philosophy of the world. So, but he proposed this Hindu idea because he thought that it was a kind of universal idea. So his universality is depicted here because today nowadays we find so and so union formed by so and so political parties. They are using Vivekananda's portrait as to propose their ideologies on that. So what Vivekananda has to say in his complete works. Okay? So when being in Parliament of Religions in Chicago, he utters this that the crying evil in the East is not religion; they have religion enough, but it is bread that the suffering millions of burning India cry out for with parched throats. They ask us for bread, but we give them stones. It is an insult to a starving people to offer them religion. So how religious views by Vivekananda is proposed here, we can see it was not conforming to the idol worshipping thing, but he is telling that they ask us for bread, but we give them stones. So basically people who believe in religion, any religion, they will think, okay, the God is the ultimate thing or ultimate reality. But well, it is not so. The bread, the survival, when since the moment we born, the survival is there, because without survival nothing can exist. So the survival is the ultimate reality, and that is being stricken by Vivekananda here. They ask us for bread, but we give them stones. So stones means this statue and all the god things. And Salman Rushdie has something very similar to say like that. He says respect for religion has become the code phrase meaning fear of religion, that you cannot nowadays logically refute the religion, but you have to be in conformity with that. So religions, like all other ideas, deserve criticism, satire, and yes, our fearless disrespect. So I have mentioned the source also here. So how religion is overpowering one's individuality, and then it is proliferating itself in the collective manner, so that it harms the individuality of the one person, like the sage and the emperor example is set here. And this another thing is that in one of the articles published in Los Angeles Times on 7 February 2005, Salman Rushdie gives remarkable statement concerning religion and its supremacy in cultural aspects. So how religion is related to social aspect as well as it is related to the cultural aspect as well. So the moment you say any idea system is sacred, whether it is a religious belief system or a secular ideology, the moment you declare a set of ideas to be immune from criticism, it means that you do not want anything that you believe in to be criticized by the people or any intellectual. Then what happens? Satire, derision, or contempt, freedom of thought becomes impossible. So here the question again arises that what is the freedom of thought? That anything that is publicized, anything that is proposed in form of religion, in form of any religious books, then why we are not able to criticize or make a derision over it? So it is the question of freedom of thought becomes impossible here if it is taken in that context. And the further lines is that not empty, it holds royal arrogance. Now it is the words spoken by sage, that it is not empty, that your temple is not empty, but it holds royal arrogance. So there is arrogance, there is pompousness. You have consecrated yourself, not the god of the world. So it means here it becomes quite clear that this emperor, who was not worshipping any god, but he wanted to just tell the world that how powerful, how wealthy I am in form of building the temple. So here in these lines, the artistic beauty is seen. The hermit says that royal arrogance and pompous egoism are there instead of the divine and true worshipping sentiments. Similarly, we find the towering statues of dictators around the world. So I have taken some towering statues made by dictators, but and I have taken here this. So here are the statues. That the first one is Kim Jong-un from North Korea. He is the present-day dictator. And second one, Joseph Stalin from Soviet Union. So formally, right now it is known as Russia. So formally it was known as Soviet Union, and Joseph Stalin was ruling, a kind of not governing but ruling there. Then Vladimir Lenin comes in 1917. In 1917, so it is Russia, and then it becomes the Russia. So Robert Mugabe from Zimbabwe and Adolf Hitler in Germany. So these are some statues who want to just establish themselves as the god or any kind of thing. So, but they failed eventually. We know the history, and here it is the kind of the stanza, it is a big one. So said the tranquil hermit, the year when the fire. So it is in relation with the revenue generation. Like we have ample money, we have ample resources, but where do we invest them? Then we are investing them in this emotional beliefs, or we are just doing the great service to the people. Now said the tranquil hermit, the year when the fires raged and rendered 20,000 subjects homeless, destitute, when they came to your door with futile pleas for help and sheltered in the woods. So it is addressed to the king. In caves, in the sides of trees, in dilapidated temples. When you constructed your gold-encrusted building with 20 lakh gold coins for a deity, God said, my eternal home. So it is the word by God. It is just an imaginary phrase given by the poet that God, what would God say if you go to God? And they will say, okay. And another thing that I want to mention is from this complete works that Vivekananda called this Siva Jnana Jiva Seva. So it means that if you want to serve the God, you serve the fellow people or fellow life. So that the central point is here in this stanza. So these lines unflinchingly renders the indifference of rulers or leisure class towards people who work for giving these people comfort. So here this capitalism is also taken in context. So we can relate this with the myth of Nero and Rome. So we all are aware of this myth of Nero and Rome, from which the famous proverb is derived. Nero fiddles while Rome burns. Such rulers only care to maintain their false image of being great, even at the cost of the people coming under the boundary of their ruling regime. So this emperor or this ruling party, first let me say you there is a difference between the two terms, the politician and a statesman. So what politician does is that politician has only concern with his political party or her political party. He will little or no in no manner think about the people upon which he or she is governing. And the statement thinks first for his people or her people. But here it is satirized in this stanza that the emperors want to maintain their false glory to the world, even at the cost of their lives of the peoples. And this one, flaring up in rage, the king said, "You false deceiver, leave my kingdom this instant." So now this anti-nationalist thing are coming back. Even if one speaks truth or logically speaks truth, then if we don't find anything to refute one's fact, then we will say leave, or we will just refute the things with the force we are having. Like, "You false deceiver, leave my kingdom this instant." So in these penultimate lines, the outraged king, having found his false glory being besmirched by the words of truth spoken by the sage, abuses him with alleging him as a deceiver. So now, here concerning the power play idea given by Michel Foucault, I have taken this quotation given by Michel Foucault, plays pivotal role in analyzing such scenario. He rightly says in Language, Counter Memory and Practice, selected essays and interviews by Michel Foucault. So it is the book or a kind of type of articlistic essay here, and in which he says that, so the interview is that the intellectual was rejected and persecuted at the precise moment when the facts became incontrovertible, when it was forbidden to say that the emperor has no clothes. So in Parul Kakkar's poem, we find that this my emperor is naked, and that how the Twitter ID was banned of her. So this idea goes alike and within it. So let us move to the next slide. So here I have given some a list of these 10 richest temples of India. So the temple is in main concern in this poem. So I am taking these things. So there are a list of the 10 in descending list, which is the most rich, which is the richest temple in India. So our Somnath temple from Gujarat is also there. So which annual income is 33 crore. And this is the conclusion, that eventually at the end of this discussion we can safely conclude that themes such as power play, vaingloriousness of human beings, individuality, social isolation, greed and folly sharply dealt with in the poem. So it is that, and here are the works cited by me. Thank you. Now questions, please. So your question is that what are the social ideas of Rabindranath Tagore? Rabindranath Tagore was a universal personality, by mentally and by physically also. That he roamed across the world sometimes, but he believed in humanity. Where there is a famous quotation of it, where the land where where the head held high, okay, then there should be a place where everybody should be not proud, but they should have their own self respect for themselves. So he was believing in this freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom of everything that one has to do or that one wants to do in that field. Yeah. Okay, so your question, like, can we? I mean, can we change, or can we do some revolt in the world to change? So, well, the question is, we have to see anything that is there structuralized. So it is for the good of everybody, every human being, right? So if there is problem, so what is the base concern of any structure? Like we have society, marriage structure. So there should be the good of humans. So if there is not there, then we have to question in form of criticism, in form of to raise our voice. So in that way, one can revolt. Just by going against, it will not do. We have to be in conformity with that, along with the criticism, the necessary criticism, and that is the thing also. Anything else? Satisfied? Thank you. Thank you.